Hi everybody, and welcome back to Ecstasy Crafts free project. Today we'll be working on our fairy in a bottle design. So we're using the MDF mason jar with our new Cosmic Shimmer Opal polish. This color is blue Parakeet, and we'll be using that for the background along with some Delicata inks and our Lavinia Stamps. So let me just tell you how I got things started. I took my MDF mason jar and I primed it. I just used plain acrylic black paint, and I also did one in white. I just want to show you the difference that the opal polish is going to make on different colors of background. So I did prime this ahead of time and set it aside to dry, and then I went ahead and I put a couple of coats of the opal polish on and let that dry in between coats. So here's what it looks like once you have the opal polish on there. You see that beautiful shine, and this one is looking a little more bluish than this one that I did on the white. See how that is a nice green, and then when you tilt it towards the light it goes blue and green. Just lovely. Just love this stuff. All right, so we're going to work on the black one and finish this one off. So what I did first was, like I said, I did a couple of coats of the opal polish, and I just did 2 or 3 and let it set in between just to make sure everything's dry, that when I want to do my stamping nothing pulls off. Like, I'll show you a sample here. I did this one with a different shade of opal polish and white in the background, but it wasn't quite dry, so I did do a little bit of a mess up there, you can see, but that was just a practice anyhow. So let's go ahead and do this one here. So I just cut using my multi-frame die here, the MFD 055. I just cut one of the circles that I'm going to use as a mask for the moon. So I'm just going to place that on the jar here where I would like it, and put this on the side here as my guide. So I'm just going to place it onto my mason jar here, and I'm just going to hold it down while I apply some ink instead of putting any adhesive on the back there. I don't want to pull off any of that base coats that I've already worked with. So I'm going to take my excuse me, Sapphire blue Delicata ink and just load up my sponge here, and then I'm going to hold the moon down and just gently from the center of the moon go outwards towards the edge of the mason jar. Now this is just going to highlight the moon and to give it a more defined edge, or an edge I should say, and so that should be enough. You don't want to go too heavy, you don't want to cover all that opal polish, but take a look at this now. So now that I did that little bit of inking, that moon can really stand out now. Now if you want it to be darker, you can absolutely go ahead and add more ink on there excuse me, and get a little more of a defined edge. So I'm just going to hold that on there and again apply a little more of that Delicata ink. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm going to take the same ink and just go around the edges a little bit on the bottom here just to blend everything together. We don't want to cover all that opal polish up because it is really lovely. Just working around the edges. Perfect. And now we're ready to do some stamping. So I'm going to move this aside and bring over my Stamping Buddy Pro. And I took the little mat that comes with it out, and I'm going to place my mason jar in there. And I'm going to use the magnets to actually hold it in place, just like that. And I'm going to start with stamping the mushrooms. So I'm going to put one over here on this side, and I'm going to put the tall ones over on this side. I'm going to get them to go fairly high. So you see how the stamp is hanging off the edge there. I'm just going to move this over, and my magnets will just hold that in place. So if it does move, that I know exactly where to put that again. So just close the door and it'll pick up the stamps. And for this, for the mushrooms, I'm going to use the Delicata Silvery Shimmer. So this really has a beautiful shimmer to it. So that's what I'm going to use to stamp my mushrooms. So I'm just going to load those up with some ink. And I'm going to close the door and then stamp my image onto my mason jar here. I'm going to give it a nice firm press. Make sure that that image transfers nicely, nice and light in the background. So I'm just going to press a little more, and I'm going to do a second coat here. And because I'm using my Stamping Buddy Pro, that's definitely going to stamp in exactly the same spot. So I have no worries about if it's going to look like a blurred image or anything like that. So again, I'm going to give it a nice firm press onto that MDF. And there you can see the nice subtle mushrooms in the background. So I'm just going to clean off my stamps and then reposition them and stamp it again. I'm actually just going to stamp the smaller mushrooms the second time. So I'm just using my baby wipe to clean that off. I'm going to reposition my mushroom stamps over here. I'm going to take this one right off. Close the door to catch the stamp, and then I'll go ahead and ink that up and stamp it again. Stamp these mushrooms on the left side again. So here we go. Nice firm press to get that on there. Oh, sorry, shaking the camera a little bit there. So there we have a nice impression, very light. I just want that in the background to add some interest so it's not so plain. Wipe that off. And now we're ready to stamp our fairy. So I'm just going to place the fairy here where I want it. And you've seen in the sample here, I have a little bit of ground, so I'll show you how to do that as well. So I'm just going to place this fairy where I think I want it. And I'm going to move that right up against the edge there so there's no movement. Place that fairy on there. Close the door. And for this particular one, I'm going to be using the Delicata Black Shimmer. So this also has a nice shimmer to it. So the whole image is just going to be a beautiful shimmer to it. And I'm going to load that up. And then close the door here and stamp my fairy image. And I'm going to do that again just to make sure I get more of a solid black silhouette of my fairy. Yep, and I'm going to keep doing that until I'm satisfied with how dark the image is stamping. And again, because I'm using the Stamping Buddy Pro here, that it's going to stamp in exactly the same spot every time. I'm just having that little one spot there that won't take the ink. So I'm just going to keep stamping until I like what it looks like. One more time. There we go. So when you're doing this project at home, I would maybe just let it sit for a second to dry and then stamp it again without moving anything. But for this video, I'm just going to continue on because you see how there's a little bit of the opal polish coming through there. But for video sakes, I'm just going to move on. So then we're going to take our mason jar out of here. Move this to the side. I'm going to bring my worksheet back here. And what we're going to do now is use this Lavinia Stamp Sentiments. And I'll have all the products listed below because I don't remember what this one is called particularly. So that's okay. Just have all the products I use listed below for you. So with this one, I'm going to use the blue that I used earlier, the Sapphire blue. I'm just going to ink that up. And I'm just going to make sure I have this sentiment going the right way. Yep. And as you see in the sample here in the background, you can kind of see the words going up and down the sides here. So I'm just going to stamp that on there, not using the entire sentiment. I'm going to stamp off first, just so that it's a nice light stamp and it's not too dominant. We just want that more so in the background. Just a little more on this side. Oops. oh, stamp that off so it's not too dark. Just going to stamp there, stamp here. Perfect, I like that. Okay. So then to almost finish off this product, I'm just going to use some silver acrylic paint, and I'm going to just put some here on my work surface. And I'm just going to paint the lid of the mason jar. And I'll probably end up doing this a few times just to make sure that we have good coverage and that you can't really see the black. But using the black as a base really allows that color to come through. Whereas if you don't paint your MDF, the paint really doesn't shine through like it should. So the first time I tried this, I didn't prime my MDF first, and the opal polish really didn't come through as well as I liked it to. So I tried priming it and everything works out great. So what I'll do here is let this dry and then come back and do maybe 1 or 2 more coats until I have a nice solid silver lid on my mason jar. Now, at this point, what you can do is add some sparkle. I added a little bit of ribbon up here. If you wanted to add somebody's name, something like that, absolutely, you can do that. Let me just show you how I did the land on the bottom there. So I just have a scrap piece of paper here, and I'll just show you very simply. Just went ahead and tore it by hand, nothing fancy. And I'm using the edge that curves upward. Oh, sorry. I'm using the curved part that goes downward. And I'm just going to decide where I want that little bit of land to go. And I'm going to use the blue ink again, just to give that little bit of land. So I'm just gently working my way on the paper to on the project, just like that. And then when you pull this away, she's standing on some ground there, not floating away. And there we go. So I also did on my sample here, it looks a little more darker. That's because I did use a lot more of the sapphire blue, but for the video I thought I'd like to lighten it up a little bit so that you can see that nicely. And then at the end here, I'm just going to take that black that I used, what's it called again, the black shimmer, and just go around the edges. Oh, too much ink there, I don't want to put too much, but just a little bit around the edges to add a little bit more interest and some shading. So not too heavy with the ink, and make sure you don't touch any of the wet parts. And there we go. So this is not quite dry yet, but you get the idea of that when it is dry that you want to do a couple of coats so that you get that nice silver shine on the top there. And when you're done, you can always add some more sparkle or glitter, whatever you like to finish off your own projects. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for this month's free project. I hope you enjoy this opal polish and give it a try. I just wanted to show you quickly that I did put some opal polish on some paper, and you see here that that beautiful shine on white paper, how it looks green. And then I put some on the black paper, and I forgot to put a few more coats, but let's do that now. So I'll just show you how to use this opal polish. So when you get it, it comes with this applicator, and you're to prime this with soap and water. You want just a little bit of soap on there, and that'll really help keep them clean for the next time you want to use it. So just going to load up your little sponge applicator here and then apply it onto your paper. So what I like to do is nice even strokes, and once you run out, you just apply a little bit more and do a little bit at a time, and then let it set to dry, and then do it in the opposite direction. And then you can keep doing that until you get the nice coverage that you're looking for. So there we have it. Thanks again for watching. I hope everybody has a great day. Bye for now.